I don't believe you. There's a lot of people that can say a lot of things online, especially, right? How do I know you're telling me the truth? When you can show that it's not just some whitewashed, perfectly polished thing all the time, and that life is perfect if they're with you and nothing else matters. I'm not promising you rainbows and butterflies over here. It's going to be difficult, but I promise you, we're going to get to the top of the mountain. This is what it looks like.
What if you could build a business in the modern world as big or as small as you want without having to compromise the things that were the most important to you in the very beginning? This is the Wealthy Consultant Talks Podcast with Taylor Welch and Mike Walker, as they share with you today their learning lessons from stories in their experiences over the past 10 to 15 years and share with you right here, right now. Let's get into it.
Hey, what is going on, my friends? Mike Walker here, and welcome to another episode of the Wealthy Consultant Podcast. I want to share something with you today. It's actually something I've been using in my businesses for years now, like legitimately way more than over a decade. And it's simple, but it's extremely potent. And if you implement what I'm about to give you today, I know without a shadow of a doubt, it's going to allow you to connect with your audience more powerfully. And it's really going to let you sync with them in terms of their processing. You know, every time that we bring our message to the market, there is a opportunity for either the frequencies to sync and to merge, or to become rejected and just become static and noise, and they're not interested, right? As you know, if you're in the market, regardless of what your career or expertise is, if you spend any amount of time online or otherwise trying to get your message out into the marketplace, you know, without me having to tell you, that it is not easy to get attention these days. The amount of content that is bombarding our ideal clients out there is immense, right? All we have to do is scroll our phones or our computer screens or whatever, and just see the onslaught of attention that is being gone after in the minds and the hearts of our ideal clients. So how do we stand out amongst the noise, right? That's not easy to do. But you know what's actually harder than even getting attention? Keeping it. Keeping attention is very difficult to do. You have to earn it. It's something that you have to earn. And the only way to earn attention and to retain attention is to build that bond with your market. How do we do that? Well, obviously, there's a whole lot of variables and elements here, but I want to give you a list of 7 things to consider that I know that if you can properly and promptly address these in the way that you send your message out into the marketplace, in the way that you convey your offer proposition over the phone or in meetings with potential clients, this will absolutely help you create that bond, that synergy between their wants, needs, and desires and what it is that you actually do. So let me give you something. We're going to take you down a little bit more of a tactical approach here. We're going to stay away from the philosophical and we're going to go full tactical. But there's actually, I could almost retract that a little bit. There are some philosophical or psychological components here that are going to be needed. So I want to encourage you, have a pen or pad out, something that take some notes with. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but the reason being is because I want you to spend your time thinking through what I'm about to give you. I don't want us to take a lot of time to deliver it to you. I want you to spend your time, invest your time into actually coming up with well thought out answers to these objections. These are the 7 objections that I find in the marketplace that if you can address these through your messaging, they are going to become actual opportunities for you to stand out amongst your competition. All right. So these are the 7 objections that I find that clients, potential clients rather, are going to have to work through prior to being able to say yes to whatever it is that we do and what we offer. All right. Excellent. So grab pen, paper, notepad, whatever it is you're going to use. I've literally got my notes right here, and I want to share with you these 7 things. Number 1, you don't understand my problem. Plain and simple. You need to be able to articulate the problem that they have or the desire that they are having better than even they can, using the same vernacular that they do, meaning the same words, the same way that they convey or process what it is that I'm dealing with. What are the things that are keeping me up at night? These are the types of things that you need to be able to address by in their words. If you can do that, you're one step closer to having a new client because they realize that, wow, you truly get me. You understand my problem, number 1. You don't understand my problem. Number two, objection. How do I know you're qualified? How do I know you're qualified? Well, obviously we can do all the things, right? You put all your credentials and all the multi-letters after your name and titles and history and all the things. These are all fine and good, no doubt. But when the entire world has credentials and are professionals, how do you stand out? One of my ways that I believe is the most powerful is to be able to convey a story. Facts tell, stories sell. Well, stories are an exceptionally powerful way of illustrating that you are qualified, not just through your credentials, but through your ability to convey the problem in a way that they feel like, wow, they've been there with me. It's a whole lot easier to have someone climb up the mountain with you if they know that you've been through those hurdles before, if they can trust that you've been down the path before and know how to serve them. They're more likely to feel like, okay, you're qualified. Not only do you have the quote unquote credentials, but you have the experience. I want you to be able to convey your experience. All right. So number one, you don't understand my problem. Number two, how do I know you're qualified? Number three, I don't believe you. There's a lot of people that can say a lot of things online, especially, right? How do I know you're telling me the truth? Well, again, it's the ability to express vulnerability that is a really powerful way of cutting through that trust factor. When you can show like, look, man, I'm human. This is what I dealt with, or these are the things that I think are going to be the hardest. This is the value I can bring, but I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to have to fight through X, Y, Z as well, right? When you can show that it's not just some whitewashed, perfectly polished thing all the time, and that life is perfect if they're with you and nothing else matters, you really do need to be vulnerable and say, hey, look, you can trust me because I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say the things that are uncomfortable. I'm going to let you know when there are things that are going to be difficult or whatnot. They're far more likely to trust you, right? These are types of objections that people are thinking through. And how do I know I can trust you? Well, you can certainly just be honest and express to them very, very clearly that, hey, look, I'm not promising you rainbows and butterflies over here. It's going to be difficult, but I promise you, we're going to get to the top of the mountain. This is what it looks like, right? All right. Number three was, I don't believe you. Number four, I don't need it right now. You may have expressed, or rather, you probably have even expressed this yourself, but you certainly have heard it if you've ever tried to, been on the phone with a prospect or try to sell your service or product. I don't need it right now. Well, what that's really saying is I haven't seen the necessity to get out of what I already know. One of the best ways you can confront this is to make sure that you clearly articulate that the pain or the fear of change is less than the pain and fear of staying the same. You really need to highlight and put color around the picture of what it means to stay stuck with where they are. A lot of people might not like where they are, but at least they know what they're dealing with, right? And they have this strange connection with the familiarity of being uncomfortable. They're like, yeah, I don't like what I have here, but at least I know what it is. And some people would rather sit in that than deal with the unknown unknowns even, right? The things and the fear and the doubt that comes with stepping outside their comfort zones. Ironically, their comfort zone can still be in what they're unsatisfied with. So how do we do that? Well, we need to illustrate very clearly the pain or the frustration or the lack of results or whatever it may be is far greater by sticking around doing the same thing than it is in stepping outside their comfort zone. So number four, I don't need it right now, is simply telling you, you have not given me a powerful enough reason to step outside my comfort zone. All right. Number five, I don't think it will work for me. What this is really expressing is a self-doubt. They don't know, hey, look, at this point in the conversation, they're essentially saying, wow, that looks like it works, but I don't think it'll work for me. So what they're saying is, hey, look, I'm validating the idea that, yeah, this actually does seem like something that can work for someone else, but not me. And so what we need to do is go back to the root, back to why it is their self-doubt or their insecurity about why it would work for them. We need to dig in. Well, why do you say that? What is it that makes you feel that you can't get results, but all these other clients can, right? That's where we need to help them. We need to lift them up and make them understand that, look, you do not have to be the world's greatest in order to achieve this. You just need a better way. You need a better methodology, a better system, a better sequence of understanding and steps to get you from point A to point B, right? So number 5, I don't think it will work for me, is really just them asking you, how would I possibly be able to achieve this? There is a self-doubt. This is an inner doubt, not so much about what it is that you do, but about themselves. We need to address that. Number 6, we're almost wrapping up here. Number 6 is, what happens if I don't like it? What happens if I don't like it? And liking it could mean the end result or whatever the experience has been, right? Well, naturally, you can ask, well, what's the alternative, right? Like, if you don't like where you are, how is trying something new going to be worse than just sticking around with where you're at already, right? So this kind of goes back to our previous question. You really need to be able to clarify for them, hey, look, if you don't like it, sure, have the refund policies and all these things. These are important pieces. You need to be able to express people and take, quote unquote, risk off the table, right? It's always good to have these, satisfaction guarantees or money back guarantees or all the things. That's great. Use that. That's kind of like the marketing side of the equation. But what I'm really referring to is the more psychological side of, well, if you don't like it, what would that mean? How would you know if you didn't like it, right? Get them to articulate clearly what it would mean for them not to know, or to rather to know that it's not for them, or that they didn't get what they wanted. If you can get them to clarify what that is, you can naturally start, in a more logical sense, start taking away those pain points or those risk factors in their mind. It might just not be about money. It might be what their family or friends thinks about them, or the speed in which those results come, or whatever it is, right? You need to ask and get more clarity as to, well, what is it specifically that you are concerned about? Because that objection is kind of too macro. We need to get them to dig in. And lastly, number 7, I can't afford it. This is one of my favorites, guys. I can't afford it. You know what that says? You just simply haven't clarified enough in their mind's eye that the value proposition is strong enough, right? So the analogy I give, in fact, we just talked about this on a call earlier this morning with some of our clients, which is why I'm bringing it up here with you guys today. The analogy I used was, just imagine if I had a winning lotto ticket. I literally scratched it off and it said, congratulations, you just won $10 million. It's guaranteed. It's in the bank. I'm literally holding the ticket that says you are, without a doubt, a $10 million winner. And I say, you know what? I'm feeling, generous today, and money's not necessarily a thing I'm worried about at the moment. So I'm going to sell this to you, this winning ticket, for $100,000. But you need to get me that money by the end of today. Would you be able to get me $100,000 within the next few hours? Well, if you knew that $10 million was on the other side of that exchange, I'm pretty sure somehow, some way, come hell or high water, you're going to get that 100K, right? So it's not about, well, let me ask you, do you have $100,000 right now just ready to spend? If you do, great. But a lot of people would not necessarily be in a position to say, yeah, let me drop $100K right now, right? Unless they knew that, unless they were certain of the outcome or the value exchange that was about to take place. And so when someone says, I can't afford it, they're really saying, you haven't given me a strong enough reason to validate that exchange. I don't see that it is so valuable that is worth me getting outside of my comfort zone financially to make that exchange take place. And so that, again, speaks back to expressing your value proposition in a way that is significant enough for them to step outside of their comfort zone and into whatever it looks like to work with you. All right. So number 1, you don't understand my problem. Number 2, how do I know you're qualified? Number 3, I don't believe you. Number 4, I don't need it right now. Number 5, I don't think it'll work for me. Number 6, what happens if I don't like it? Number 7, I can't afford it. You need to, as a business owner, if you bring any product or service to the marketplace, without a shadow of a doubt, you need to have answers for all 7 of these. If you do not invest the time now, you will have to pay the price of lost sales, lost opportunity in the future because you can't address these 7 questions. So I implore you, invest the time now before you need to address them in the marketplace with your messaging, with your ads, with your copy, with your landing page, with your website, with your sales calls, all the things. These 7 things need to be addressed. Now, let me leave you with a couple cool parts here. Number 1, if you invest the time to come up with the answers for these questions now, you can infuse these questions throughout your marketing, throughout your messaging, right? So you can literally start to remove these objections subconsciously in the mind's eye of your prospects by weaving the answers to these questions throughout your marketing, throughout your value proposition, so that by the time you are face-to-face with them, they have only 1 or 2 or maybe none of these left. It is actually possible to remove all 7 of these objections from the mind of your prospect before you ever even talk to them, right? You just need time. And this is where earning the attention and retaining the attention is so key. You're not going to be able to clear through all 70 objections in a 30-second stories format on Instagram. It's not going to work, right? Most likely, at least. So we need to be able to invest time to work through these objections with people. This is a really powerful piece. Figure out not only the answers or the solutions to these objections, but figure out a way to weave these into your marketing. So you just begin to remove these objections from the hearts and minds of your audience before they're even in the buy box, you would call it, right? With your product or service. And lastly, I'll give you another little nugget here. The sequence of these questions that we have gone through, generally speaking, in most cases, is the exact same sequence that these questions will appear in the mind of your prospect, from 1 to 7 in that order. So as you are marketing people to people and as you are presenting your offer, consider handling these objections in this exact order, because this is very much like the stair steps that move across a moving river, right? The river is doubt. The river is fear. The river is uncertainty. And we are placing these blocks, one in front of the other, across the river. We have to take people from step 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, right? In that order. We can't go from 1 to 6 and then 6 to 2 and then 3 to 4, right? We don't want to be hopscotching around. We want to move them from one side of the river to the other side as efficiently and effectively as possible, right? That's what they want. That's what we want. So how do we do that? We understand the psychology of who we're talking to. And this inherently means understanding the objections or the uncertainty that they are experiencing in their mind as they are processing the value proposition that you are proposing here. All right. Last piece, and we'll wrap it up. If you find any of these 7 questions challenging, I want to encourage you to double down on the time that you invest into answering these, because if it is challenging for you to address these, how much more challenging is it for them to address, them being your audience, your prospects, right? They're being exposed to your value proposition potentially for the very first time. And you are asking them, their brain, to process all 70 of these questions in a rapid fire sequence. You've had potentially, hours, days, weeks even to craft through this and work through it and write through it and think through it and post about it and write about it and all the things, right? So you really do need to consider how important it is that you can address these 7 objections succinctly. These should not require 3-hour dialogues for each one. You could write long form content on each one if you want, but ultimately, remember, we are trying to get our prospects from one side of the river of doubt to the other side as efficiently and sequentially as possible. And if you work through questions 1, or rather objections from 1 to 7, like we have today, I'm very, very confident that you will net that end result that you want and ultimately that they want much easier. All right. I hope this helps, guys. This is just one small example of what we do inside the Wealthy Consultant. If you need more information, if you want to dive in, I'd certainly suggest check out our Consulting Digest. It's a monthly publication. We have an online community. It's fantastic. If you're just kind of dipping your toes in the water with us and what we do here, definitely check it out. You will be glad that you did. All right. Blessings. Love you guys. Have a great week, and look forward to jamming with you on another episode of the Wealthy Consultant Podcast. Take care, guys. Talk soon.